You're listening to the Not for Clicks Sports Podcast.
I just don't understand. You get to a final and you play like that. It's like, why?
That could never happen with me. When we get backstage, it's going to be beef.
I just thought it was boring. I just thought it was really boring. What's happening? This is the Not for Clicks Sports Podcast. I am Jordan. He is Gabriel. He is Ollie. Marvin is not with us this week. He's taking his turn. It's his turn to take a week off from the pod. And I do want to say that he did a really good job in hosting for the 2 weeks that I was away. But I can't because he did his best though. He did his best. And I'm a man that believes in doing your best, right? Just read your potential and just hit that. And Marvin definitely did that. So well done to Marvin for the last
Welcome
2
back,
weeks.
Jord.
Yeah. He was good. He was all right. You know the format by now. We've got lots to get through on the next next hour or so. We'll be talking a little bit about tennis later on. We've got some Super Bowl chats. We've got some AFCON chat. And we'll be talking about a couple of big games across Europe as well. But first, we kick off with a couple of quick hits. I'll be asking the gentlemen a question each. They have a minute to answer their questions, and then we just keep it moving. Very simple. Before I get into my first two questions, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Watch us on the YouTube, across all the audio platforms. Give us a share, give us a like, give us a subscription. Slap the subscription button. You know what I mean? And tell the world. It makes a difference. Leave a comment as well. All right, let me kick off with the first quick hit I'll start with you, Ol. Who's the harder watch, Nigeria or Chelsea?
Wow. Is that aimed at G really?
No. It's, I mean, G can chip in if he wants after, but
Wow.
It's for you.
It's a no-brainer, that one. It has to be Nigeria. Nigeria, the harder watch. Chelsea played some good football against Finland the other day.
Sorry, Ollie. Are Chelsea not so hard to watch because it's fun seeing them get battered and lose? I know they've been decent.
No, their last couple of games have been okay. I thought they played some good stuff against Villa, and it was they got their tactics right and they countered them really well. And you can see that. And let's be honest, who didn't enjoy that goal from Fernandes? That was a great free kick. So I don't think you can see there are players there. If they could get it together, they could become a really good unit. But yeah, they don't do it often enough, do they? But yeah, there is no contest there. Watching Nigeria that's too much. That is such a hard watch. I just don't understand. You get to a final and you play like that. It's like, why? Just go out there and give it everything. You know what I mean? For 90 minutes, give it everything and try and win. Don't try and sneak it. That's just. I don't understand the way Nigeria play.
Gee, just briefly, we'll get to AFCON and Nigeria a bit more detail a bit later in the show. But as someone that has been berating Chelsea all season, albeit last couple of games, you looked okay. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I think Nigeria have tried to kind of Southgate their way to win a tournament. Just get a goal here and there wherever they can. And it really, it backfired massively in the tournament because Ivory Coast came with, energy and enthusiasm, and that's what it took to beat us. Their quality wasn't that great either, but yeah, they got to win and deservedly so. So yeah, I'd have to agree with Ollie.
All right, Naji, who for you is leading the race currently for Manager of the Year? Edwards, O'Neill, or Postecoglou?
You can't give it to a Spurs man, even if he wanted to.
This is the hard thing. I'm looking at Postecoglou and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, how can I make a case? You know what? I'm gonna go for O'Neill. One, because he's not a Spurs man, but two, because I saw the way they played against us the other week, and it's not luck. Like, Wolves are actually a really good unit, and I never thought O'Neill would really make it as a manager. I thought he'd be one of those guys who gets caretaker role here and there, and then kind of like moves on. But actually, he doesn't get much of a budget, doesn't get much of a say in transfers. He just seems to make it work. So yeah, I think he's done a great job. So yeah, I'm gonna go for O'Neill. Sorry, Big Ange, but
You've done well there to waffle for 60 seconds, basically to lie. Just a complete lie, but I rate you. No, fair play. All right, guys, let's move into our first talking point of the day. Let's talk about a couple of big games in Europe. No real standout games in the Premier League, but there was 2 standout games on the continent. Xabi Alonso's unbeaten by Leverkusen. They hosted German champions Bayern Munich, and in Spain, Bellingham United, otherwise known as Real Madrid, they took on title-chasing Girona. G, let's start with you again first. You start with on this one. You watched the game in La Liga, Real winning 4-0 in that match. But what did you make of Girona? I appreciate you probably don't watch La Liga that often, but they got back in this game. But what did you make of them?
I was really disappointed in the end because like the story's been fascinating from afar with the way they've kind of, I wouldn't say they come out of nowhere. And I think some people are trying to like make it some kind of Leicester fairy tale story. Like let's get it right. They've got the Man City infrastructure in there. And Man City, they're literally buying players and then loaning them back to them. So they've got, even if it's not like massive transfer fees, they've got an infrastructure that they can use and they've took full advantage of it, and credit to them for doing that. But the game was just a washout. Like the first 3-4 minutes, I was like, oh snap! Like Girona, like had all the possession. I thought they could really do something here. And Real Madrid,
3-4 minutes.
yeah, that's how bad it is, right? And like Real Madrid didn't have any of their centre backs, so you're thinking actually, okay, like go at them, and they tried. But then the minute that first goal went in from Vinny Jr., it was just like that's it. Like they just completely collapsed. But I'll give credit to Ancelotti because when Ancelotti was at Chelsea, I always just saw him as kind of like a manager of egos and personalities, right? Like he tried to change the formation. The players went against it. So players went and just basically played Jose's formation and it won us the league. But you could really see in that game, Ancelotti kind of making adjustments to the tactics and then working like with him keeping Rodrigo and Vinny really wide so that, Girona's fullbacks couldn't get forward. And actually, knowing that he was playing like Carvajal at centre-back and Camavinga at centre-back, and been able to keep the ball away from them for the whole time. It's not like they had a great defensive performance. They just were able to retain the ball so well that they never got put under pressure. So credit to Ancelotti. But we're supposed to talk about Girona. Unfortunately, it looks like the bubbles burst a little bit. They'll probably get Champions League football, but I don't think they'll win the Liga now after seeing that.
Well, Jude Bellingham got 2 goals. But is it unfair, G, to suggest that, and actually, let me ask you, Ollie, is it unfair to suggest that he's got a little bit lucky coming into La Liga at a time when it's not his strongest? Barca are not the Barca of 5-6 years ago. Atletico Madrid, he's kind of coming at a good time to kind of bat up the whole league.
I really don't want to answer this question, Jordan. It's the kind of thing that, I'll have Marv. Marv would be, can you imagine? Marv would be listening back to this thinking, what do you mean? Bellin's the best player in Europe. So, it's kind of, that's the kind of thing that I would say, Jord. But, I just feel like G and Marv are all over me on Bellingham. So, I kind of agree with that point because Barcelona, this is probably the worst Barcelona team in a generation. Atletico have probably, let's be fair, the players are probably bored of Simeone, let alone Simeone being bored of Atletico. There's not much out there. So Real Madrid should win the title. And I don't think that's a massive thing for me to have said last week that, Bellingham should be winning the La Liga this season. And then, if they get a good run in the Champions League, who knows? They've got great form in the Champions League, so they might have a good chance to win it. But I don't think it's the strongest La Liga that we've seen for sure. And it's a good time for Bellingham to be there. That's not to say that he's not doing well. His goal scoring record is not to be sniffed at, and he deserves the kind of the flowers he's getting at the moment. But yes, La Liga isn't that strong.
G, what's the defence for Bellingham? And how was he in this game?
He was brilliant in this game. And I think the defence for him is that actually he's gone to a new league and is almost playing like a new position. Like, I thought when you looked at it at the beginning of the season, say, is he playing on top of a diamond or like he's almost playing like a withdrawn striker role almost, and he's adapted to it well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what he's done. Little worried about the injury that he picked up. Well, I guess we'll see, like, because ankle injuries can kind of like really hamper things. So we'll see how that kind of goes. But yeah, I predict he'd be one of the stars. Well, he would have been one of the stars of the tournament if he had an expansive manager. Before she's got Southgate.
I don't know what to do.
He's already... John, what? Sorry, let me just check the date. What's the date today? It's the 13th of February. We haven't even got past Valentine's Day yet. He's ruling out Bellingham doing anything in the Euros this summer. Already. He's already ruled it out because of Southgate. In February.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's just so bad.
Wow.
But what I will say is that I think, because Adidas was announced last week that they're going to make his celebration the kind of emblem of a brand, of a line of their clothing. In the same way that Nike have got the Jumpman for Jordan, they're doing a similar thing for Bellingham. So we're not only seeing potentially a world-class football player doing his thing, we're seeing like the next superstar sportsman. Forget football player. They're really building him into like a Tiger Woods type figure. This is more than golf. This is more than football. This is a star that everyone needs to kind of be buying into.
I think it's a little bit early for that, to be honest. Yeah, I don't want to sound like Ollie, but I think that's a little bit premature. And plus, I think the difference is like with the Tiger Woods and stuff, like Bellingham is a little bit chippy. Like he's got like a little bit of a Dele Alli kind of stuff where he's always kind of like having a little moan and having a go at the ref and stuff like that. Always seems to be in a battle, which I don't think will do well for that kind of like, being like a poster boy of it. Yeah, I can't see it.
So I'm not sure I agree. I think some of the biggest superstars across sports have had a little bit of an edge to their game. They're not being, Michael Jordan wasn't a nice guy. Tiger Woods wasn't the nicest person to interview and work with.
Well, you say
Rooney,
that, but you found that out after when you digged into their personality. The mystique around them kind of made it like. But Bellingham is, for lack of, on the pitch, he's a bit of a prick. Like and I think if he leans into that too much, I think it will take away from the thing around him. Like with Messi.
There was that embarrassing incident in the Bundesliga, wasn't it? Where he kind of blamed, he claimed the ref had been bought or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. In the Champions League a few years back.
Was it the Champions League or was it Bundesliga? I can't remember which.
I remember him having, could have been more than one, but I definitely remember having it in the Champions League.
Yeah,
the refs there.
Yeah, there was a definite incident where he let himself down badly. George, can I just ask you quickly? Do you rate him? Do you think where do you see? Where are you on the Bellingham barometer?
I don't get upset because I know do you rate him as a controversial question.
I'm somewhere in the middle, right? I think that he's clearly a talent that has got everything about his game. The kind of comparisons in terms of his style of play to Zidane, I see that. I think he runs. Ooh. I think he moves. No, he does. I just think his style of play is very akin. It is.
I mean, has he got a touch of Zidane though?
No, I'm not comparing him to Zidane in terms of the complete player. I'm saying his style. When you look at him play as a midfielder, I can see. Do you know what I mean? If he was a silhouette, you could put Zidane, the way he runs, the way he turns with the ball. I would think that's fair. Is he world class? I think Ollie's got a point in that it's difficult to anoint someone as world class before they've won anything of significance. I think this world class talent thing is a weird phrase I hear. He's got world class talent. Well, if I score a goal in my backyard, I score a world class goal. Does that mean am I world class then? I think world class can come to so many more things.
Well, I could get 180 and I could probably...
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. So I think Ollie's being a little bit harsh, but I do think you, Marv, and the rest of the world have gone a bit early in anointing him as like the number one player. I think he will be there.
Don't put him in the same category as Marv. I think Marv is a bit
Pick a team, G. Pick a team. Are you team Ollie or are you team Marv? Pick a team. You know what I mean?
There's no being in the middle. You just said you're in the middle.
I did, didn't I? I did.
Yeah. So you pick a team.
I think he'll go on to be brilliant. I think he has to back it up with trophies, and I think winning La Liga isn't for me the barometer, especially this La Liga. So I think you've gone a bit early, but I think Ollie's being maybe a little bit harsh. But just finally on Bellingham, he's now scored more league goals I've got here in a single season than any other Real Madrid midfielder this century. He took his tally to 20 in all competitions. In terms of exports, guys, is he currently already the best export this country has seen, football-wise, obviously I'm talking about?
You say ever seen?
Yeah.
No, it's too early for that.
Yeah, it's too early for that because he hasn't put trophies on the... when you say this country, you're talking about England or you're talking about British?
Well, I guess
because obviously when you look at the I know that people, Real Madrid fans will tell you that Bale, they don't like Bale, but you've got to look at his trophy haul.
The numbers don't lie. Yeah.
And say, well, this guy's won a lot for Real Madrid. So until he reaches those kind of levels, then I don't think we can judge that yet. But he started well, and I don't think. I mean, you're saying I'm harsh, but all I'm saying is let's just wait a bit. Wait a bit and see where he gets to. I just don't feel that I can start talking about a man being the best player in Europe based on half a season. And let's be honest, Marv was going after about 5 games. It's like I don't think you can start calling someone the best player in Europe based on that. It's kind of, you need to do a bit more than that. Come on.
Finally, on this game, G, do Arsenal or Man City have anything to worry about in terms of the Champions League?
Arsenal do, because they're not as good as Man City. I think,
in terms of Real Madrid.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think Real Madrid, I think Man City will look at it and think we could probably take them. But I think if they came up against Arsenal, I think they'd dispatch Arsenal.
Why?
Because Arsenal are just not as good.
Okay, fair reason. Let's go to Germany now. Ollie, you watched this one between a former Arsenal legend and 2 Tottenham rejects. In Germany. I'm joking. Granit Xhaka took on Kane and Dyer and pocketed both of them. No, this one was I watched this game 3-0 to Leverkusen. First of all, how bad are Bayern Munich?
Oh wow. Again, this is another thing that we've talked about quite a few times, and it actually looks like it's going to happen, doesn't it? Kane is going to end this season empty-handed, isn't it? And the thing is about it, John, and the Spurs fan, yeah. I mean, I love Harry, and I love him, yeah. And I don't wish him any ill, yeah.
Stop chatting shit.
I've got to tell you now. I've got to come clean. I will find it amusing if he gets a season empty-handed.
That's not a surprise, one.
Bayern Munich.
The thing is, it's not just about Harry. It's about it's about the Spurs haters as well. All the people who say he's got to get out of Spurs. He's got to go to a club that can win something, and he's gone there, yeah. And he just the narrative was just get out of Spurs and you'll win something. And he's going to go to Bayern Munich, and they could well get pipped by Leverkusen because they look so far off it on Saturday. I just couldn't believe it. And the thing is, I used to like the Bundesliga. I used to watch it on a regular basis, but it just got to that point where I had to dip out because I was just like, every season was the same. You'd watch the season, Dortmund would start quick, and they'd look like they were really set to win the title. They'd be 9 points clear going into the winter break. And so I remember one season they were 9 points clear. And then Bayern will come back after the winter break and just steamroller everyone, and it would just be like that every season, to the point where even last season they let Dortmund take it right to the
last game.
Dortmund needed to do was win the game, and they couldn't even do that. And it's like, wow, they got a real problem. But season after season, 11 seasons, we've seen this happen. And it's just got to the point where it's like, I can't invest my time in this anymore. This is just this is driving me nuts. So I had to dip out of the Bundesliga because of that reason. But this time, I feel like Leverkusen are that far ahead of Bayern. And Bayern they look a shambles to me. They don't look a team. They don't look like they've got a coherent strategy. And the thing was as well with Tuchel doesn't look like a good fit for Bayern. I don't know. I know G loves him, but, maybe it's just a wrong club for him, but he does not look like a good fit for that club.
What on that point, Ollie, is it fair to say in that league, and you've just outlined 11 years in a row, however long it was, they win the title, if you don't win the title at Bayern Munich, is that just a sacking? Should you be fired?
Oh, absolutely.
You've got to go.
You, if he does not win the title at Bayern, he'll be gone for no two ways about it. I don't think you can survive. And the media and all of the ex-players that are around Bayern, they won't let you survive. You just will not survive. And he's already come wrong with quite a few of the ex-players, Mateus and who was the other one? I can't remember who the other one was, but there was another player.
Rummenigge?
No, it wasn't Rummenigge. It was someone else. I think it was, who was the ex-keeper? Was it Oliver Kahn?
Oh, Kahn.
Might have been Kahn. But it's one of these, but he's come wrong with a couple of them, and, they've had arguments on TV and stuff. But yeah, he doesn't look like a good fit. And I don't know about you, George, but at the start of that game, I saw the lineups and I saw Tuchel had changed his system to go 3 at the back, and I thought, you're losing this. It's like, whenever you see a big game like that, you always know, whenever the manager overthinks it and then decides, I'm going to change my system to match up to the opposition, you just think, this ain't going to go well, is it? You're going to lose. You know what I mean?
It was so bad, and Kane just didn't get a touch of the...
It wasn't in the game. It wasn't in the game
at all. It was so bad. And I mean, on Tuchel as well, because I agree with Ollie in that. I think if you don't win the league as a Bayern manager, you should be sacked. To Ollie's point about him being the wrong fit, I've got a feeling even if he does win the league, I think they'll still fire him. I think it just doesn't feel right. I know you love Tuchel, but I've never been convinced about Thomas Tuchel. Never.
Let's in fairness, Tuchel does have a good CV, and that's why he's got the jobs that he's gone to. But I do think there is something about him being almost like an underdog manager, right? Like when he won the Champions League with us, like we had great performances against teams that we were expected to lose against. No one expects us to win in the league, and we all of that head to head against the big sixes, he always kind of came out on top. But I think there is something about being the best and being able to break teams down. And that's where he really struggled with Chelsea. Like our league form wasn't great, and we gave him the benefit of the doubt because ultimately, I mean, it's really harsh that people call him a failure because you got one transfer, which was Lukaku, and that was it in that first 18 months. So it was really harsh to kind of say that he didn't get the time to kind of put his team together where you could say, okay, he did that and he failed. But if you are to judge him on the 18 months, you would say the league form wasn't good enough. We struggled to break down teams. He was almost too defensive in some ways. We stuck with the 3 at the back, regardless of who we were playing against. And we found it really hard to kind of, and he had a plethora of attackers, like the Kai Havertz and Mason Mount. And we struggled to consistently find an attacking format or kind of, way of playing. And so in that sense, I do think that you could argue that at him being at a real elite club, and at being at a club where they're the best team, the jury's still a little bit out on him. And I think he's got a big job to kind of turn it around up by and prove that this year.
Ollie, just a couple on, let's give a bit of love to Xabi Alonso. I just thought it's my first time fully watching Leverkusen. I was just so impressed. I mean, they weren't up against much, granted, but I was so impressed. Do you think this was the last big test for him? Do you think they will now go on and win the Bundesliga?
Yeah, as long as they keep their heads and they don't kind of, they let it get to them in the final furlong. Yeah, they I don't see any reason why they can't do it. I mean, they're 30, 31 games unbeaten now. It's just incredible, really, to have a run like that. They had a great win in midweek against Stuttgart in the cup, the German Cup as well, and they're taking on all comers and winning. And he finds different ways to get the job done. And the thing was, it was quite smart the way they attacked it. They didn't, they were quite happy to let Bayern have the ball, and Bayern had a lot of possession in that first 10, 15 minutes. But they were quite happy to wait for their opportunity. And once they found a way, they got that. I mean, the first goal was so bad defensively from Bayern. The ball to go right across the area like that and get to Stanisic. But yeah, I just thought that they were very clever in the way they attacked it. They didn't kind of go gung ho and try and run Bayern over early on. They just waited for their moment, and it was a surgical kind of sort of beating of Bayern. Really, they went to work on them and just got the job done. They were very good. I was really impressed.
One thing I forgot, and I didn't remember it till the end of the game. They didn't have their main striker, Boniface, as well.
No, that's right. Yeah,
I forgot about that until I saw the players on the pitch.
And Xhaka was good. To be fair, Xhaka was good, wasn't he?
He was good. He was good. We've definitely missed out on him. Final question to both of you, just briefly, guys. Start with you, Gabriel. Do you think it would be a good move for both Liverpool and Xabi Alonso if he was to go there in the summer?
Yeah, I do think it would be a good move. I think, as well as Klopp has done, I think the team, they've got a new team in progress, but I think a new way of playing and a new way of clearly the heavy metal football that Klopp like to play isn't going to challenge City sustainably on a longer term basis. And Xabi Alonso seems to kind of play like a brand of football which I think could compete with Pep. Now, whether he could translate that to the Prem, I'm not so sure. But I think if I was a Liverpool fan, I would like to see a slightly different style of play. And I think at the moment, Xabi Alonso looks like the best candidate to bring that.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd be a great addition to the Premier League. Not least, and this is one for your manager, George. It'd be great to see a manager who's just kind of keeps his calm on the touchline. He was just kind of, that was if there was going to be a game where he was going to Didn't
you employ Mourinho and Conte recently?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, absolutely.
Said as well.
But they, I just, honestly, I just feel like there should be. I did see there was one moment where he was having a go at the fourth official, though, Alonso. But generally, if we're talking about managers who kind of keep it in check, and that was their biggest game of the season, without doubt, and he held it down, especially even after the third goal, which was an incredible finish, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Frimpong went running over to the touchline, and Alonso was just sort of stayed well out of it, didn't he? And then kind of just picked them up and kind of get on with it, kind of thing. But yeah, I think he'd be a good addition. I just slightly wonder whether it's come too early for him, and whether it might be a good idea for him to stick with Leverkusen for another couple of years, see how far he can take it, and then take on a big job. Because the Premier League is unforgiving, as we all know, and could eat him up.
I agree. I think it'll be a bad move at this point. I think he should wait another year at least. Try and retain this. Because even if he wins the Bundesliga this season, there'll be no pressure on him next year to retain it, because people would expect Bayern to come back strong and take it back. So,
well, let's be honest, George. The other thing is, I mean, everyone's talking about Liverpool, but if we know anything about Bayern Munich, is if they lose or if they have a challenger, the first thing they do is to go into the challenger and take whoever they think is the most important part of that. So there's nothing to say that Bayern won't be looking at Alonso themselves and thinking he's an ex-player for us as well. He was at Bayern, wasn't he? Mm. Yeah, There's nothing to say that Bayern won't be in the market for Alonso as well once they sack Thomas Tuchel if he loses the title, which is I think Liverpool won't be on their own in looking to get Alonso. It just becomes a matter of whether Alonso sees his short-term future in the Bundesliga or whether he wants to take a big step into the Prem.
All right, we've got some big thoughts coming up on AFCON shortly. Don't want to miss that. But first, let's get into some tennis chat. All right, let's keep it moving now. Let's talk a little bit about tennis. Tennis is probably, alongside football, my favorite sport. Big fan of tennis. And we've not done tennis on the pod yet. And to do so, we're going to have a discussion now. We're joined now by the Guardian's tennis correspondent, Kimani Carriol. Good evening, Kimani. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, man. I wanted to get you on because Sky have announced that they are going to be dedicating, a bit like some of the other big sports for F1, football and cricket, tennis's own channel on their network. And we want to have a discussion now about what we think that means, how well we think that will go, especially in light of it's been tried before, right? You know, other broadcasters have tried to kind of dedicate a channel to tennis before. First of all, what's your thoughts on Sky giving tennis fans and the sport of tennis its own dedicated channel on their network?
I think it's great for general sports fans who may not have known where to catch tennis before. So I grew up with tennis on Sky back in the day, but then in recent years it kind of jumped from different channels, and recently it was just on Amazon Prime. And so if you're a general sports fan and you didn't go on Amazon Prime regularly or whatever, you wouldn't see it much. But now, obviously, being on Sky, you're watching football. They're gonna tell you when the big matches are on. You know, I think in that sense, it's great, and it seems like they're dedicating a lot of resources to it. For actual tennis fans, though, I think some of them are actually quite either skeptical or just not sure if it will work for them. The good thing about it being on Amazon, so tennis is just like it's a hard sport to follow. There's so many matches going on every day. I mean, there's like 4 tournaments going on now. And the good thing before is that on Amazon Prime, they just put any court with a camera on it, they'd have a stream for it. So you could watch anything at any time. Now everything being on one channel is, Sky, they have like some multi-viewing and stuff, but Sky will, decide what to show you. And so that's the frustrating thing for some fans.
And do you think that tennis, football and cricket are the two biggest sports or two most popular sports in this country? So I kind of understand why Sky would feel the need. There's definitely an audience for those two sports to give them their own channel. Do you think that tennis is obviously a massive global international sport with a massive following, but do you think the audience is there to cater to, as you say, some casual sports fans will dip in? I don't know if it's part of the package or if you've got to buy independently, but do you think tennis has the audience in this country to justify its own channel?
I think in general, tennis has an audience, but I guess the problem is that people tune in for Wimbledon, they might tune in for the slams. Those are the big tournaments, that bring attention and bring eyes. So I think they're going to have to work on, helping to build that audience for the smaller tournaments, the Masters events. I think people will tune in, if they know that Alcaraz is playing Djokovic, of course, that will bring people. But in general, I think it just depends on the matches, when they're happening, what other sports are happening. And I guess we'll see, right, if they can sustain an audience, and if this is, this is something that will, happens for a long time, or if, as has been in the past, there will be a few years on Sky Sports and then somewhere else.
Ollie, do you think that it's a massive risk doing this at a time when there aren't that many big names and tennis isn't at its peak like it was maybe for the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a bold move by Sky. I mean, I totally back them in doing it. I think it's great, to have as many sports as possible on the TV that you can watch. And earlier on we talked about, being able to watch the Bundesliga and and being able to watch La Liga when, the Prem isn't really kind of doing it for you. And in the same light, I want to be able to watch the tennis as and when I'd like to watch it. And it's a great thing, really, rather than the old days that, as Tamani was saying a moment ago, where all you got was Wimbledon and you just heard about all the other slams, kind of in passing, really. You didn't really get a chance to see anything. But now you're getting a chance to watch not just the slams, but you're seeing the ATP and the WTA tour, which is, I think, is great for the tennis fans and even the casual fans. The only problem I think with this is for Sky is that there's no one in this country at the moment that Sky can kind of hang their hat on and drive the kind of the kind of audience to watch more of the sport. I suppose when, a couple of years ago when Amazon Prime took it on, Andy Murray was still around, but now he's kind of, he's reaching the end, I would have thought, of his career. And even, Sky started on Sunday with the Qatar Open, and Emma Raducanu went out in the first round. So that's not exactly the kind of start they would have hoped for. I would have hoped they would have wanted Emma Raducanu to go deep into the tournament to get them started well. But she's got out in the first round, and now she's said that she's coming home to do more practicing. So they're not going to see much of her in the opening tournaments of their kind of new channel. Although I noticed this week, I noticed she might have been earlier on today actually, or yesterday. I did notice that Sky, when they haven't got anything else on, will be putting stuff on main event as well as on the tennis channel. So I'm not sure whether that means that you can watch different matches or whether you're kind of just watching the same match that's on the tennis channel. But all in all, I think it's a great move by Sky. I hope it goes well, and it's good for tennis, and that can only be, to get more eyes on it, and hopefully people will give it a chance.
G, you're not a massive tennis fan. You're more of a casual fan. But do you think that does Sky need to appeal to you? Obviously, Sky can't affect the actual matches, but for this to work, do Sky need to try and draw it in sports fans, casual tennis fans like you? And if so, beyond affecting the game, which they can't do, what they need to do that?
Absolutely, they do need to do that. Not only for tennis though, but for themselves. I think there used to be this reputation that you gave a sport the kind of Sky treatment, and it kind of elevated, propelled the sport. That's not really happening so much anymore. And a lot of the sports are taking their business elsewhere, where for companies who will take better deals for the sport itself, financially. I mean, you look at that boxing going over to the zone and things like that. So yeah, I think tennis needs Sky to do well, but also Sky needs Sky to do well in this sense. But for me, as a casual fan, it's good for me to have the access. I think I engaged in I disengaged with tennis to a certain extent because of the lack of characters. I mean, Djokovic is probably the biggest name now, and I actually like him as a person, but I don't think he's the most engaging character, or he's maybe a little bit of an anti-hero. But I'd like to think that maybe over time, Sky can help to promote some of the emerging characters in the sport, which will then help the sport overall to progress.
Jamani, how does tennis generally get more fans? Because, as I mentioned, it's lost some huge names from the sport in the last couple of years. They've tried it with documentaries. Sports documentaries is a big thing right about now. Do you think trying to do more of these documentaries on Netflix, Amazon, is the way to try and build this audience to compete with sports like football, cricket, and boxing now? As G mentioned, Sky has a lot of the networks making a big push to kind of really make boxing the big thing. Is documentaries the way they need to do that to really entice your casual fan to actually want to then, oh, you know what? I hadn't heard of that person. Let me go and watch them at the next majors.
I think it's obvious. It's obviously worked for F1. We've seen that, and their tennis has been really trying to copy F1 in different ways. They're the sports documentaries help to, show the stories of the athletes and make it more interesting, make it more, I guess, palatable for people who don't know much about tennis beyond watching Wimbledon. But there are other things, I guess, that as you mentioned, the big three are winding down. Serena's retired, and it's funny to just see tennis kind of scrambling to bring more eyes to the new generation and capitalize on their fate, the influence they've had. And so you see new events popping up. There was this new thing called Ultimate Tennis Showdown that took place in London at the end of last year, which was trying to show tennis in a new light, which it basically copied basketball and made, with like timed quarters and instead of it being like, the regular tennis scoring. So they're trying some different ways to make, as I said before, the slams are popular and still, I was just in Australia and they had 1 million people through the gates. So that they're still making money and it's still a popular sport. But yeah, I think they're trying in many different ways to make the other events more interesting. At the same breath, though, I do think the sport didn't make Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic. They're incredible tennis players who were excellent for so long. And what's going to bring people, to the sport is more excellent tennis players. More, if Carlos Alcaraz continues to play as he has done for 10 years, then people will be interested. And if there are other people who follow in the footsteps of Serena Williams, then people will watch. If they aren't, then no one's going to watch a bunch of mediocre tennis players, who win a slam and then disappear.
And let me ask you about you mentioned the Netflix series Drive to Survive, which I definitely think reinvigorated the sport of F1. It got a lot of kind of, forget casual fans, non-fans are now watching F1 because of that documentary. What did you think of tennis's equivalent, Breakpoint? I thought it was awful. What did you think?
I thought it was awful too. I don't know. The thing is, I'm definitely not the target audience, so I don't know. So some of my friends, I've asked a lot of people who don't watch tennis, and some of them liked it. But I do. The funny thing is that with Drive to Survive, a lot of the criticism was over, them creating too much drama, and maybe just focusing on the drama rather than the actual tennis. Whereas I thought Breakpoint was, that there were, issues that where they have dramatic issues, I guess, but they just skirted over them. For example, they barely mentioned Djokovic getting deported from Australia, which is, to me, one of the craziest things that's happened in sports in, the past, whatever. And so I didn't think it was that interesting. It was good for showing how hard the sport is, but I don't know I don't think they did a great job of it. And also, it doesn't seem to have gotten a very big audience, actually. I don't see many people talking about it, to be honest.
I just thought it was boring. I just thought it was really boring. The last episode.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. I really wanted to like it. I wanted to, because a lot of my friends who like sport,
you liked it. Sorry to interrupt you, but you liked it when Kyrgios was in it, right?
I was going to come to that because.
Sorry.
I think Kyrgios is gold. I think very few sports have a star, a genuine star with person. Whether you like him or not, think he's bad for the sport, we can discuss that. But he's definitely a personality. Not many sports have got that, and tennis has got that. And I just thought after episode 1, which he featured in, and they were smart to do that. I mean, you could argue they can maybe make his one last, because then you have to watch the rest to get to that. But after his episode, I just thought the whole thing was a snore fest. And I've seen recently that he's got a series out, a podcast series out, where he's interviewing people from sport and outside of sport. I just think, why is tennis letting him go? Why is tennis why is Sky not finding a way to really utilize this person that could definitely grab people like Gabriel Lin? I don't know, Ollie, what you think about Kyrgios and how tennis is utilizing him. They had him on comms for the Aussie Open, and I'm like, get him in the studio. Get him in the studio.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But that's the thing though. Like, however good of a personality you are, you have to win. And Kyrgios hasn't. He played one match last year and hasn't played. He's played one match since 2022. So if he doesn't win, then he's useless in terms of promoting the sport.
I think even if he doesn't win, I think he's that much of a character. I think non-tennis fans don't really care if he wins or not, do they? They don't care if he wins. They want to just see him do a mad thing.
Maybe see him lose. Could be a good thing as well.
Let's be fair to Marnie. There are plenty of British tennis players who've made careers off the back of less than Kyrgios.
For sure, yeah, for sure.
They basically play one tennis match and then they're expert pundits, aren't they, for the rest of their careers? It's that's wow, So Kyrgios has got every right if he wanted to go into media now and make his name doing that, then why not? I think it seems to be a pathway for most British players, isn't it?
Yeah. I think he'll be successful doing media and things like that. I just think in terms of if we're talking about promoting the sport, if he when he made the final of Wimbledon, that was huge news. He had an amazing tournament and everyone was talking about it. Everyone, so many people who don't watch tennis were watching him against Djokovic in that final. But again, I feel like in an individual sport where the players, the personalities and the players are the focal point and not like a team, not like Arsenal or whatever. You have to win, and that's how you draw people to the sport.
Well, just on that point, I'll wrap it up now. But can you guys think of the football equivalent? Who's a footballer that hasn't won much, but is a bit of a personality, is on TV? Is that Micah Richards? Maybe I don't want to prem, but who's the football star that
he's not exactly Micah Richards isn't exactly controversial though, is he?
Yeah.
No, true.
I mean, Kyrgios he's a controversial character, isn't he?
True.
Joey Barton.
Yeah, maybe.
That's not a bad shout. That's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout. Well, listen, I hope the Sky channel definitely works because, I won't be buying it. I don't pay for Sky, but I mean, for tennis fans, I hope that, they get to see it and get to kind of enjoy more tennis. Listen, Tumani, thanks for your time. Thanks very much, bro.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into AFCON now, guys. Let's just keep this brief because I ain't got time really. But first of all, Gabriel, let me start with you. Thoughts on the final? Ivory Coast coming back from 1 goal down to win 2-1. I think even my Nigerian friends and colleagues have all unanimously, even the hardened, biased ones, have all agreed that the better team won on the night. What were your thoughts on the final?
Yeah, it was as a spectacle. It was a really poor game, and it was really disappointing. Like in terms of from a Nigerian perspective, you get the lead, you don't deserve it. Okay, have a game plan to try to kind of win the game, but it's like we just tried to kind of hang in there. We didn't have any creative spark, and then once Halle got the winning goal, which actually was quite a good goal, actually, a good finish. Like there was no plan. It was just kind of lump it forward. It was like really like for as a spectacle and for African football, I think the final was really, really disappointing. And as much as I feel like as a Nigerian, you'd want Nigeria to win, but I actually feel for African football, we'd have been better placed if like a Senegal or someone was in the final because all eyes are on the tournament. It actually was a packed stadium for once, which I know Ollie's been calling for.
It was good. I can't lie, G. The atmosphere was fantastic. It was a great spectacle in terms of the crowd and seeing all the Solomon Kalou and all of these guys in the Drogba. It's all Chelsea players, isn't it? Carney was there, but it was great. It was a great atmosphere. There's no two ways about that. Which was good to see.
Which is good to see. But as a game, Nigeria just didn't come to the party at all, which is really disappointing.
Gabriel, on Nigeria, you kind of mentioned it earlier on, but are they kind of the African England in that, just like massive expectations, they got to a final, but they just never deliver.
Yeah. And also in terms of like we're not particularly light. Like the rest of the continent wanted Ivory Coast to win. Like, let's be clear about that as well. But yeah, no, but more in and I don't this will be the third time I talk about Southgate, but the parallels between the ways in actually trying to win, where there's no tactic to try to win. It's just hang in there, hope you get a set piece, hope you get a goal, and that carried us to the final. But the worst thing is that there's so much attacking talent there, and you just think like this is probably our the best 4 attackers we've had for years, and to play like that, to waste Osimhen looked distinctly average.
Awful.
And it's kind of like, I think Napoli are probably pissed that he came, because whenever they wanted to charge for him now, they're going to be able to charge half, because he just didn't look like he showed up. But I do put that down to the way
tactics.
he played.
Yeah, to be fair, the tactics didn't help him, but he did nothing. He did absolutely nothing in the whole tournament. Ollie, on the tournament generally, so many of my colleagues in the media, and I've got lots of friends that are out there covering it, I've been like just really praising AFCON, and I'm hearing it's been the best AFCON of all time. I didn't watch every game, granted. I didn't watch every game, so I will to some degree defer to those that were there and whatever. And I know it's a different experience when you're on the ground versus when you're watching on TV. But I'm like, if it was the most dramatic AFCON of all time, and there's an argument, it was for all the wrong reasons, right? It wasn't dramatic because the quality was high. It was dramatic because some of the goalkeeping and defending was League Two. Some of the patterns of play were just beyond embarrassing. It was dramatic for all the press trying to rush the Ghanaian boss and beat up Chris Hughton. It was dramatic, but for all the wrong reasons.
I don't have a problem with that, John. I mean, he's got the
I don't want to be the bad guy here, but overall, as a spectacle, what did you make of the overall tournament?
Well, I suppose that people get excited when some of the big guns go out. And it was the same here. Egypt went out early. Morocco, who were one of the favourites, went out. Senegal kind of went out against... And you've got this kind of redemption story of Ivory Coast. I mean, if there's ever a reason why it can't be right that the third place team gets to the final, it's one thing for Argentina to lose 1-0 or lose by the odd goal against Saudi Arabia, to get packed out in your own country 4-0 and then still make the final. There's got to be something wrong there, and I just don't. If anyone tells me, "Oh yeah, it was a great tournament," they're not watching properly.
All right, guys, let's just kind of wrap up now with a very brief mention on the American rugby took place, Super Bowl, a couple nights ago.
I don't know why I get labelled as this disrespectful one. You know,
please, give me a break. The Super Bowl 2024. This was interesting. Was the most watched US TV broadcast since 1969 when the moon landed. I thought that was really significant. I mean, a large part of that is clearly because Taylor Swift was in the building. But the Kansas City, what are they called? Kansas City Chiefs. The San Francisco 49ers. 25-22 in extra time.
Oh, geez. What are they called, George? Do your research, bro.
Sorry, so I'm just reading my notes here. I didn't watch it. You know my thoughts on this sport. Gabriel, you did watch it. Was it any good? Was Usher good?
No, it actually was quite a drab game, at least for 3 of the 4 quarters. But
after all that,
it's such a shame because, like, you look at both of the attacks, and you've got some of the heavy hitters in the sport there, like McCaffrey, Mahomes, Kelsey. We talked about Kelsey's brother last week, but it just didn't really pan out to be, a big game. I think, the highlights of the early parts of the games were Travis Kelce having a go at his coach, Andy Reid, which we don't really get to see because Andy Reid's quite a big disciplinarian. And the camera panning to Taylor Swift as many times as possible to try to get reactions. But Kelce wasn't doing anything anyway, so it was hard to. And then in the halftime show, Usher completely disrespecting Swiss Beats by hugging up his wife live on TV.
You know, this was the most interesting. This was the most interesting, non-interesting part of the whole thing because everyone's made a big deal about how he was feeding up Swiss Beats' girl, Alicia Keys.
Wife, George.
Sorry, wife. His wife. But I didn't think it was that big a deal. I didn't think it was like disrespectful. I didn't think it was.
George, if that was your wife, what would you be saying?
It's a performance.
I didn't see it. When you say hugging up, what exactly was he doing?
They were dancing.
So, like,
his arms. Go on, G. Go on.
No, he was behind her. He grabbed her. He nestled his chin on her neck, and he was. And you got some people online who have zoomed into his face, and like he just looked. It's like he's biting his lip, but he just looks so content.
It's a performance. Come on, man. It's a performance.
And he's got form for this as well. This is not the first time he's done.
No, he has. I'll give you that. He has got form. But I just think people are realizing that the game was dead, so we need something to talk about. And it's like, oh, Usher, the scumbag, and he's been a scumbag. He's having up Swiss Beats' wife, Alicia Keys, on stage. It's like, it wasn't that bad. Come on, G. Come on.
If it was your wife, I'm going to say, that could never happen with me. When we get backstage, it's going to be beef.
Oh, well, okay. Well, anyway, that was the only thing that went viral after the game. So,
Can I just ask? Sorry. Can I just ask what was behind him, Travis Kelce, having a go at his coach, and why is there not more being made of that? I mean, I only saw a brief kind of shot of it, but it looked terrible what he did. I think that's like, what was he playing at?
He just the players they were calling just weren't really looking for him. So, and he's one of their big players, so he's kind of like, it's kind of almost like his any given Sunday, like put me in the game, coach kind of moment. But yeah, I think to be honest with you, any other player, and actually a few players called it out on Twitter, that any other player would have been called disruptive or disrespectful. But because Travis Kelce is a bit of a national sweetheart, he kind of gets away with it. But yeah, it was bad. It was aggressive. It looked
really bad.
Yeah. It looked like someone having a go at like an old age pensioner, on the street.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of that now. Let's back off now with it's definitely time for this.
What you talking about, Willis?
This week's Willis of the Week. I've chosen, in the absence of Marv, a video that's gone around, that got sent to me anyway, of in the post-match celebrations of Ivory Coast lifting AFCON in the train dressing room. They're all singing, dancing as they do. They're all doing their dancing. Great, love it. And you've got Serge Aurier, formerly of Tottenham, and Nicolas Pepe, formerly of my club, Arsenal, who have not had the greatest of careers. Let's be really clear. I mean, getting to Tottenham and definitely Arsenal, they've definitely both peaked in their careers. And they're having a laugh and joke about Salah not having won it. And I just thought to myself, you're Nicolas Pepe and Serge Aurier, and you're laughing at Salah because you won AFCON. Like, you've won AFCON. You deserved it. Congratulations. Enjoy yourself. Celebrate. Sing your songs. Even talk Nigeria because they're the finalists. Fine, whatever. But to kind of like really have a go and laugh and joke at, currently the best African player on the planet, one of the best players on the planet, I just thought was classless and just so there was just a lack of self-awareness of who you are. Do you know what I mean? If you're Ronaldo doing that, if you're Messi doing that, all right. You're Pepe and Aurier. So I'm giving it, if you haven't found it, Google it. It's online. I'm giving the Willis of the Week to Serge Aurier and to Nicolas Pepe for sure.
I just didn't get it because what's the beef from? Like what's it about? Like I don't like. Is there some priors that we just don't know
I
about?
think I don't know, but I think they're just picking on the fact that he's Mohamed Salah, the biggest African player in the world. He's come to Africa and he's obviously got attention on him. Egypt went out relatively early. Ha 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 ha. But I'm like, just celebrate your win, bro. Don't have a dig at the guy that has had the career you would dream to have.
Maybe Egypt, maybe you're wrong, G, about Nigeria being the most hated nation in Africa. Maybe it's Egypt.
Well, there are politics there because of the whole northern African sides and they kind of identify more as Middle Eastern than they do African. So there's definitely a kind of cultural, political element to why a lot of African countries don't like Algeria, don't like Egypt, don't like Morocco. But that's a political discussion for a different podcast and a
It's
different
like
day.
Dr. Umar's one.
Oh, jeez. How the hell do you get Dr. Umar on a sports podcast? You're special. You're special. Listen, don't forget, as I
We'll
mentioned,
have to get him on.
what's your view on Morocco and Algeria versus Ghana and Nigeria?
No snow bunnies.
No, follow us. We gotta go. Follow us on all of our socials. You know where we are: Instagram, we're on Twitter. Give us a like and subscription on YouTube as well. All your Spotify, Amazon, all your old audio podcast outlets. We're across all of that. Thank you very much. Until next week, we are out. Peace.